Join CJEC, ETM Media Group, ARCC NorCal, and SAC Black Biz for the BYOB Community Reparations Listening Session Saturday, August 27th, 2 p.m. at Capsity Oak Park in Sacramento, corner of MLK and Broadway.
The Build Black Better informational discussion will focus on the needs of small Black business owners in the Sacramento region.
What types of reparations proposals would help create a thriving Black business community?
Come share your thoughts, your ideas, your story, learn more, and let your voice be heard.
The way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but freed people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have Black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay?
Come on.
You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and Black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations, allows for the construction of these policies and practices and systems and structures that continue to oppress us. This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
You know, Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total Black population in California is about 2.6 million, and then of that, the descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know? But I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically Black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR roof, don't tune in.
We have a sad story coming out of Canada today. Woman 23 dies in drowning accident that was streamed on Facebook. A 23-year-old woman working in Canada died in a drowning that was tragically live streamed on her Facebook page. Helen Nayabutu died August 18th while swimming at a hotel pool in Chatsworth, a township in Ontario. Her death is not considered suspicious, a spokesman for the Ontario Provincial Police said Wednesday. Nayabutu, originally from Kenya, had posted a live stream video of herself at the outdoor pool, according to Toronto Star, which viewed the video before Facebook removed it. In the video, Nayabutu smiles at the camera before she goes for a swim in the shallow end. At 3 minutes into the video, she moves to the deep end of the pool, the newspaper reported. The video shows Nayabutu struggling in the water as she calls out for help, according to the Star. The video then goes silent. It stops after hotel guests arrive at the pool and discover Nayabutu, the newspaper reported. Alphonse Nayawaya, A close friend told the Star that Nyabutu was the breadwinner for her family in Kenya. She's been supporting them, and it's left a big gap, Nyawaya said. We need prayers. We need financial support. The family is working to send her body to Kenya for a funeral service. Ashe to the young sister there, 23 years young. Just a tragic story all around, including the family back home in Kenya that's depending on her, this young woman, for financial support.
Yeah, Ashe to the young lady. I mean, it's unfortunately that someone of that age, especially early 20s, dang near a teenager almost, has to be supporting a family. That just goes to show you, our global economic travesties that are happening right now. But yeah, speaking of travesties, looks like an AI-powered virtual rapper, FN Mika, signed, but in this case it says signs with major label. On August 21st, hip-hop is now in the world of artificial intelligence. A virtual rapper named FN Mika, which is powered by AI, has signed with a major label. According to a Music Business World article published on August 17th, the quote robot rapper FN Mika has signed a deal with Capitol Records and dropped his first single, Florida Water, which features the Gunna and gaming streamer Clicks. And then there's an update, August 23rd. The announcement of FN Mika's record deal hasn't been without its own controversy. People have shown opposition to the rapper using the N-word on his previous tracks, including Moonwalking from 2019. Man, that is nuts. All right.
Yeah, appropriating all around, including with the moonwalking. And, we'll get to the King of Pop story later. But for now, this fiasco of a story goes on. To say the man who says he voiced controversial virtual AI rapper FN Mika has come forward and is claiming he was ghosted by the creators of the rapper when the project got off the ground and was never compensated. On Tuesday, August 23rd, rapper Kyle the Hooligan came forward to tell his side of the FN Mika saga on Instagram. In the video, he claims he collaborated with creators of the virtual rapper, but has yet to get any money for his services. And then, this was a pretty hot topic on Twitter. So here's a post from a Rhonda Hanson saying, AI rapper FN Mika, controlled by white guy, reportedly saying N-word in lyrics after public backlash. Capitol Records allegedly dropped him 7 days after he signed. So it appears that this AI rapper has been dropped from the Capitol Records label, and you can see him down there with his white master creator that apparently didn't pay the guy that voiced the project.
Let's see what the person who voiced the project has to say.
Stuff people have been DMing me and I try to keep it quiet because I was gonna really wait till this blew up for real and then went after them, because basically it was they came to me with this AI would I want to be the voice of it, and I thought it was gonna be some collaboration. They promised me equity into the company, percentages, all this stuff. So I'm thinking okay, there's about to be some collab, something different for me. So I could do my music and be on some AI stuff with this FN Mika character. So everything's going good. Next thing I know, just ghosted me. Use my voice, use my sound, use the culture, and literally just left me high and dry. I ain't get a dime off of nothing. And they got record deals, all this stuff. I wasn't involved with no meetings or none of that.
Dang, talk about a trick bag.
Yeah, sounds like bad business.
Well, hopefully this won't be bad business. Looks like Dennis Rodman said he's going to Russia to help free Brittany Griner. But hostage negotiators think it's a terrible idea. At a restaurant in Washington, D.C., Rodman told NBC News he got permission to go to Russia and felt inclined to assist in the U.S.'s effort to bring Griner home because I know Putin too well, according to Dennis Rodman. Quote, Dennis has no business being in Russia, just flat out. I don't think a questionably sober person is going to be able to negotiate the release of Brittany Griner, and more importantly, there's a plan, Jonathan Franks. She's got the best in government and the best of private sector in former Governor Bill Richardson of New Mexico working to bring her home, he added. They're actually doing a decent job working to get her home at the moment, he said. They've done unprecedented stuff in furtherance of that goal. So yeah, there you go.
So they say he shouldn't go do nothing, but I don't see anybody else doing anything. She's still out there rotting in Russian jail. Let's hope Dennis Rodman doesn't, get caught up trying to be Captain Safe Assist. Hopefully this works out.
Speaking of working things out, this is going to take you. Right?
Yeah, so speaking of working it out, Taj Jackson posted a tweet on August the 22nd in response to Rolling Stone cover, which lists Harry Styles as the new King of Pop. There is no new King of Pop. You don't own the title at Rolling Stone, and you didn't earn it. My uncle did. Decades of dedication and sacrifice, the title has been retired. No disrespect to Harry Styles. He's mega talented. Give him his own unique title. And that is her response to Rolling Stone's tweet on August 22nd, where they proudly display this new cover, giving Harry Styles the title of the new King of Pop.
What? Anyway.
I mean, she's absolutely right. Come up with a new title. I know that these artists, they use their recycled titles from time to time. I remember once I was talking to my daughter. She was relatively young, and I was like, oh, the boss is going to be on the Super Bowl. The boss is going to be on the Super Bowl. Then later on in the conversation, I bring up Bruce Springsteen, and she's like, who? And I was like, Bruce Springsteen, the boss. And I was like, who do you think I was talking about? And she was like, Rick Ross. So it happens, but there are lots of bosses. But there's only one King of Pop, and that title retired when Michael Jackson transitioned.
Yeah, you should probably call him the new King of Stop. Because, dude, you need to stop all that madness.
Yeah, the king of not. And then, some commentators are saying, oh, he didn't say it about himself. That's Rolling Stone that put that title on him. But they're like, well, he didn't come out and denounce it either. He should have come out and been like, Rolling Stone, I appreciate the nod, but, that's just not me. That's Michael Jackson.
Absolutely. So, speaking about the new Queens of Gymnastics, Connor McClain captured the U.S. all-around title while Shilese Jones and Jordan Chiles came in second and third place, marking the first time ever that Black women filled the top 3 spots in the competition, reports NBC Sports. McClain becomes the 6th woman since 2000 to win the title in her senior nationals debut, a feat most recently accomplished by Simone Biles. I never thought this could happen ever, she said, just looking back at it where I was last year. This is just so crazy to me. McClain's first senior national competition was slated for last year, but after changing coaches and moving across the country, she was not ready to compete. In addition, last winter, her father, Mark, died from the vid, and her grandmother passed in the same week. Wow. May they rest in peace. And, you know, shout out to McLean for, hanging in there and, you know, keeping the eyes on the prize and focused on her dreams, because that's really rough.
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, hopefully it gave her strength and motivation and, you know, wanting to make her ancestors proud. She made us all very proud. Social media is pissed over black child having cotton put in his hair by Little League World Series teammates and coaches. This is truly disgusting. During the Little League World Series, for some reason, the broadcast showed an African American child having cotton put on his hair by teammates and coaches. Carl Ravick reportedly called it kids being kids and having fun, but social media hated everything about it. A tweet from Smitty on August 21st says, "Did anyone else just see this Little League World Series? They was stuffing the black boy hair with cotton." And then we have Maria Rojos, who commented under Smitty's post saying, "Yes, I saw it. When the boy to his right started it and got the whole team involved, that is traumatizing, and the young man looks humiliated." The at ESPN announcer had the audacity to say, "Kids will be kids. Shameful." And there's also a video. It says a video has emerged. That is out on the Twitter space currently, if anybody wants to go there to look for it.
Ford is laying off thousands of employees, and here's the memo explaining the change. The cuts primarily affect staff in the US, Canada, and India. Ford is laying off about 3,000 employees and contract workers, with the cuts primarily affecting staff in the US, Canada, and India, the Wall Street Journal reports. Chairman Bill Ford and CEO Jim Farley sent a memo on Monday informing staff of the layoffs, with affected workers being told later this week. Quote, "Building this future requires changing and reshaping virtually all aspects of the way we have operated for more than a century," end quote. Ford and Farley said in the memo, which we have included at the bottom of this article, "It requires focus, clarity, and speed. And as we have discussed in recent months, it means redeploying resources and addressing our cost structure, which is uncompetitive versus traditional and new competitors," end quote. About 2,000 salaried jobs and 1,000 agency or contract workers jobs will be affected. It's unclear exactly how the cuts may be spread across Ford Blue, which manages its internal combustion engine (ICE) vehicles, and Ford Model E, which manages its electric vehicles. Spokesperson T.R. Reid tells The Verge that a large number of the cuts impact Ford Blue because that's proportionally a bigger part of the company's business, but declined to provide a specific number.
A lot of people being out of work. Maybe they need to restructure to an all-electric model to be competitive, because out here in California, they're planning to ban the sale of gas cars, as reported by the Rolling Stones. California is expected to vote on Thursday to ban the sale of gasoline-powered cars by 2035. The climate crisis is solvable if we focus on big, bold steps necessary to stem the tide of carbon pollution, Governor Gavin Newsom said in a statement. California governor wants to do we'll skip that part. The landmark move toward electric vehicles would be phased in over several years, with a target of 35% of the new vehicles that don't emit fossil fuels being set for 2026, a target of 51% for 2028, 68% for 2030, and finally a target of 100% for 2035. The California Air Resource Board will vote to implement the measure on Thursday, with board member Daniel Sperling telling CNN that he is 99.9% confident that it will pass. This is monumental, Sperling added. This is the most important thing that CARB has done in the last 30 years. It's important not just for California, but it's important for the country and the world.
Yeah, I mean that's huge. The only thing or the question I would have is, and I know us two aren't the ones to answer this, maybe the individuals that are listening will be the ones to answer this. But my question is, like, if we're going to predominantly electric vehicles, and I don't know where the solar powered or the hydrogen model engine is at right now, but like, do we have the bandwidth right now to actually help with, sustaining the electric vehicle model?
The grid can't even handle rolling blackouts, so I don't know how we're going to get to 100%. But I guess there is a lot of money for infrastructure out there. I'm sure the EV industry is a big part of that. So I'm sure that they have a plan in place. Let's hope to get the infrastructure where it needs to be by this 2035 mark that they want to hit.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure by then our new Freedmen's Bureau will be up and running, and we'll be able to assign some engineers to those projects, right? Some Black freedmen engineers.
Yes, definitely. I mean, and then the other aspect to this is the cost. Electric cars are pretty pricey. The last I looked into it. So is this excluding poor people from transportation, much needed transportation?
Great questions, and hopefully those will be asked and answered by legislation.
Hopefully. Well, they said that the vote was happening today, so I will need to circle back and see if it did indeed happen. This Daniel Sperling seemed 99.9% positive that it would, so another thing to keep an eye on. And also today, got some big news from the Biden administration. POTUS proudly tweeted, "In keeping with my campaign promise, my administration is announcing a plan to give working and middle-class families breathing room as they prepare to resume federal student loan payments in January 2023. I'll have more details this afternoon." And he also included this slide, the Biden administration student loan debt plan, forgiving debt, $20,000 forgiveness if you went to college on Pell Grants, $10,000 if you didn't receive Pell Grants. Forgiveness only applies to those earning less than $125K. Student loan pause extended one final time through December 31st, 2022. Payment based on income. If you have undergraduate loans, you can cap repayment at 5% of your monthly income.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's a step, and hopefully there are some students out there that will be able to take advantage of this loan forgiveness payment debt plan. But for those that, for example, like myself, that almost $10,000, that was almost, interest accrued on my loan itself. So go figure.
Yeah, there definitely should be some principal reduction in these plans. And aside from that, the fact, that this is indeed actually a handout, whereas reparations is a debt that is owed. So I don't know how these handouts are coming before debts are still outstanding, but yeah, it seems like Biden got money for everything else but reparations.
Yeah, that's you know what? Let's play this video. Speaking about people who need to be paying their debts. 1 second.
President Joe Biden unveiled sweeping student loan relief Wednesday, making good on a pledge he made in the 2020 campaign for the White House. The U.S. government will forgive $10,000 in student loans for millions of debt-saddled Americans, even more for low-income borrowers.
And I'm honoring that commitment today. Using the authority Congress granted the Department of Education, we will forgive $10,000 in outstanding federal student loans. In addition, students who come from low-income families, which allowed them to qualify to receive a Pell Grant, will have their debt reduced $20,000.
Canceling the debt will free up hundreds of billions of dollars for new consumer spending that could be used for home buying and other big-ticket expenses, according to economists, some of whom said this could add a new wrinkle to the country's inflation fight. Many Democrats had wanted more and had pushed for Biden to forgive as much as $50,000 per borrower. But Republicans are mostly opposed to student loan forgiveness. In a statement Wednesday, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell blasted the move, saying, quote, President Biden's student loan socialism is a slap in the face to every family who sacrificed to save for college, every graduate who paid their debt, and every American who chose a certain career path or volunteered to serve in our armed forces in order to avoid taking on debt. Biden pushed back.
I will never apologize for helping Americans, working Americans and middle class, especially not to the same folks who voted for a $2 trillion tax cut that mainly benefited the wealthiest Americans and the biggest corporations.
U.S. consumers carry a massive $1.75 trillion in student loan debt, most of it held by the federal government, the result of university tuition fees substantially higher than in most other wealthy countries. A senior official told reporters the forgiveness plan could benefit up to 43 million student borrowers, completely canceling the debt for some 20 million. Biden said freeing up some of the student loan debt will see funds flowing back into the economy.
People can finally crawl out from under that mountain of debt, to get on top of their rent and their utilities, to finally think about buying a home or starting a family or starting a business. And by the way, when this happens, the whole economy is better off.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so they were showing an awfully lot of black people in that news report there. You would think that he had signed a executive order for reparations or something, as many black people as they showed. And also, when I was watching it this time around, I noticed that they showed the black people every time they're talking about debt, and the only time I saw some white people or white Latino looking people was when they were talking about consumers. So they're trying to make black people the face of this debt forgiveness. Why? So they can come back later and say, oh, you got your reparations. I mean, we just gotta keep our eye on all of this. Never forget.
All right, so history of student loans, bankruptcy discharge. Until 1976, when the new bankruptcy law was enacted, student loans could, like most forms of financial obligation, be discharged in bankruptcy proceedings. At that point, student loan programs were not yet 2 decades old, and student loan debt had not yet reached the stratospheric proportions that defined it in the 21st century. That year, largely baseless claims that student debtors were abusing the bankruptcy system led to the first restrictions on bankruptcy discharge of student loan debt. These restrictions were tightened even further in the ensuing decades. Little progress has been made in reversing them, despite concern that they have unfairly biased the system against indebted college graduates. While other forms of debt relief do exist, notably deferment and income-driven repayment followed by forgiveness after a set period, critics of bankruptcy restrictions charge that these options are insufficient. Some bankruptcy judges have begun offering partial student loan discharge under the vague provisions that follow or that allow for it under current bankruptcy law. And this is from the website Saving for College. I think
Did
there's
it
one more.
did it say when they started loosening the restrictions up a bit? Or was that just a general statement?
No, I think that was a general statement because they definitely haven't loosened any restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, back when I filed bankruptcy, which was many years ago, it was there was no wiggle room to include student loans. They told me, no, ma'am, these are yours to keep forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's even with the bankruptcy laws when it first started. I mean, you could try.
I
Based on
tried it.
hardship. I mean, you could try, but most likely you're not going to get it. But you can try. You know, if you can prove that hardship.
All right. Well, it's made it very hard to discharge those student loans. History of student loans, bankruptcy discharge.
So this is part 2 of that article, by the way.
Oh, this is part 2. Okay. In 1978, the exception for bankruptcy discharge of student loans was moved from the Higher Education Act to the U.S. Bankruptcy Code at 11 U.S.C. 523. With the passage of Bankruptcy Reform Act, while the bill written in the House of Representatives had proposed reversing the 1976 reforms, the Senate version prevailed. An amendment the next year clarified that the 5-year limit applied to loans backed in whole or in part by a governmental unit or a nonprofit institution of higher education. In 1984, the Bankruptcy Amendments and Federal Judgeship Act of 1984 further tightened the rules on bankruptcy discharge by dropping of higher education from the wording of the legislation. This broadened the restrictions on discharge to include private loans backed by nonprofit institutions as well as government loans. The Crime Control Act of 1990 extended the period before which bankruptcy proceedings could commence to 7 years after repayment began. In 1991, the 6-year statute of limitations on collection of defaulted loans, which had been established in 1985, was completely eliminated by the Higher Education Technical Amendments.
All right, so just give a little context to what's kind of going on in this student loan debt by race and ethnicity. There is some data, and if anybody wants to do further research on it, you can go to educationdata.org and check it out. If I remember, or if we remember, hopefully we'll put the link in the chat so you can check it out. But anyway, student loan debt by race and ethnicity. The fact that borrowers of certain races and ethnicities face exceptional obstacles in their quest for advanced education is universally accepted among academic financial specialists. So let's go through some of these items here. Black and African American bachelor's degree holders have an average $52,000 in student loan debt. 45% of this debt is from student loans for graduate school. 40% of Black graduates have student loan debt from graduate school, while 22% of white college graduates have graduate school debt. Over 50% of Black student borrowers report their net worth is less than they owe in student loan debt. Wow. At 52%, Asian student borrowers are the most likely to have a net worth that exceeds their student loan debt. Asian bachelor's degree holders are the most likely to have paid off their student loan debt. 59% of Asian student borrowers still have educational loan debt. 67% of Hispanic and Latino student borrowers have educational debt. 70% of white and Caucasian student borrowers have student loan debt. 4 years after graduation, 48% of Black students owe an average of 12.5% more than they borrowed. After that same period, 83% of white students owe 12% less than they borrowed. And once again, that's from educationdata.org.
Yeah, this whole student debt is quite the hustle. quite the hustle. And we have to keep in mind too, with these predatory private loans, which I noticed when we were reading the last slide, said that those are also wrapped under the discharge regulations. And what Biden just did, that's just going to impact federal loans. So people who have these private loans are still on the hook to pay with no discharge forgiveness in sight.
Yeah. And if, like, for example, you take the first point, Black and African American bachelor degrees holders have an average of $52,000 in student loan debt. So you're talking about $52,000, and you're only going to forgive what, $10,000,
And like you said, that's
$20,000 a
basically going to
month?
cover the interest. So the
Right.
principal is going to be there, and the interest is going to start right back over again. So you're
Yeah.
still going to be in the same situation that you started. And another thing that Biden said during the news report is, now people can, get back to paying for necessities, mortgages and food, these necessities. People were spending, their entire incomes on these necessities. Student loans were always like the last priority. So it's like people who weren't paying their student loans anyway are not going to see any additional income from this.
Yeah, I don't know what dude was talking about.
Yeah, me neither. I don't think he knows what he was talking about. Okay. So here is more cotton-fueled racism story coming from the Los Angeles Times. Black mom sues LA Unified over cotton picking project at elementary school, suit says. A Black parent filed a civil rights lawsuit last week against the Los Angeles Unified School District and Board of Education, saying that a cotton field was set up at an elementary school in 2017 that was intended to teach students about the experiences of slaves. Rashonda Pitts said her 14-year-old daughter, who is referred to as SW in the lawsuit, experienced emotional distress as a result of this project at Lawrence Span School that her social justice teacher said was to help students gain a real-life experience as to what the African American slaves had endured. The suit also names the school's then principal and social justice teacher as defendants. Since the project, Laurel Span School was closed and a new school, Laurel Cinematic Arts Creative Tech Magnet, was created in its place. Pitt said that in September 2017, she noticed her daughter had become very quiet and reserved when she used to vibrantly share her day with her mother, the lawsuit states. One day, as Pitts was dropping off her daughter on campus, she saw a cotton field in front of the school and called the office to speak with the school's principal, Amy Diaz, who was unavailable, according to the lawsuit. Pitts spoke with the assistant principal, Brian Wisnowski, who explained that SW's class was reading Frederick Douglass' autobiography and that the cotton field was created so students could have a real-life experience of slavery, the lawsuit said. After Pitts expressed her disappointment with the project, Wisnowski agreed and said the school's principal would reach out to Pitts, the lawsuit states. Diaz listened to Pitt's request for the cotton field to be taken down in 24 hours, but said that the school couldn't accommodate such a quick turnaround, saying it would aim for the end of the week or the following week, but couldn't make any promises, according to the lawsuit. Wisnowski and Diaz didn't immediately return requests for comment, and LAUSD spokesperson said the district didn't comment on ongoing pending litigation. So it looks like this happened back in 2017, but they're just reporting on it now. I don't know. So yeah, I wonder if she just decided to file the lawsuit just because, ongoing anxiety that this has caused, or if the lawsuit had been filed and, there was just really no movement on it for the last 5 years.
Great.
So what do you think of that project, that class project there?
You know, that's very interesting when you talk about things like that. I mean, it's hard to say because you're talking about something that happened in history that people are trying to forget, even Black people who descend from U.S. chattel slavery. So it's really hard because you're like, I think it would be good for every student, including Black students, but particular non-Black students, to actually experience what it's like to actually pick, like what it's like to pick cotton, like going there and like getting pricked and, you know, and trying to remove that cotton from the plant. But in terms of like litigation and all that other stuff, like I would stay away from it just because like we live in a very litigious society, especially when it comes to schooling. So I don't know, that's just my thought.
Yeah, that is something else. That's something else. So we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully this young woman, you know, will find some solace.
Yeah. In California's largest race bias cases, Latino workers are accused of abusing Black colleagues. Nearly every day, the one-time Ontario warehouse employee said he was stunned to hear racist slurs from Latino co-workers. They said it in English, they said it in Spanish all the time, recalled Leon Simmons, a Black father of 4 with a deep voice and gentle manner. When they look you right in the eye and call you the N-word to your face, that's dehumanizing. 32 miles away at a Moreno Valley warehouse, it was the same story. Another Black laborer, Benjamin Watkins, described how a Latina co-worker called to him, "Hey monkey, yeah you," and waved a banana in her hand. A group of women burst out laughing. In America's long history, harassment and discrimination against Black workers has usually involved white perpetrators, and that remains the case today. But with the rapid growing of the Latino population, now at 19% in the United States and 39% in California, Latinos form the majority in many low-wage workplaces. And instances of anti-Black bias and colorism among them is drawing new scrutiny, even as activists in the two communities forge alliances over criminal justice and economic development. U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission lawsuits alleged that supervisors at the global medical supplier Cardinal Health and at Ryder Integrated Logistics, a subsidiary of the trucking giant, along with their staffing firms, routinely ignored harassment in Spanish and English at their Inland Empire warehouses. They gave Black employees the hardest manual jobs, denied them training and promotions, and failed to take action despite dozens of complaints, according to court filings and interviews.
Yeah, nobody should have to go through that kind of toxicity at work. And again, another lawsuit, which, I mean, that's what you have to do apparently nowadays, is file a lawsuit if you want to get their attention and to get them to do anything about it, because they're saying that in this case nothing was being done about it. In the last case we just read, they couldn't get to taking down the cotton field in a timely fashion. I mean, these people will just ignore your grievances if you don't file a legal lawsuit.
Yep, gotta do what you gotta do. So that is in the news.
That is. Join CJEC, ETM Media Group, ARCC NorCal, and SAC Black Biz for the BYOB Community Reparations Listening Session Saturday, August 27th, 2 p.m. at Capsity Oak Park in Sacramento, corner of MLK and Broadway.
The Build Black Better informational discussion will focus on the needs of small Black business owners in the Sacramento region.
What types of reparations proposals would help create a thriving Black business community?
Come share your thoughts, your ideas, your story, learn more, and let your voice be heard.